Okay, too, a double recording. Okay. Okay. So, thank you very much for joining us this morning at the JALT International 2020 conference. We are here with our presenter, Dominic Jones. He will be, yes, take it away.
Okay, so good morning, and thank you for coming here on a Sunday morning very early. I hope that plenary was worked out for you very well. Today we're going to talk about self-defense, which is a huge subject, and hopefully you've had a chance to watch the video where we've talked some things, which was on YouTube. Either ways, we can start up and talk about self-defense. Now, just a brief background on myself. I've been studying martial arts for 30 years, over 30 years. And my focus is in using self-defense, especially how to de-escalate fights before they start, your awareness skills to get rid of any opportunities to engage in any conflict, and how to resolve that conflict as soon as possible in using the least amount of force. So that's a very quick outline. I see we've got a couple of people here. We've got I can see Gary. Hello, Gary. Good morning. I hope you can hear me. And we have some more participants here as well, which is great. And if you have a question, then please either write it into the chat box now or unmute yourself and ask me a question. And then if not, I will continue talking about self-defense. Great. Okay, so self-defense. I'm assuming most of us are teachers. So a good starting point would be to think about a teacher's responsibility or a school's responsibility for keeping their students safe. Now, when I go into, I've taught in all ages of schools, from elementary school, kindergartens, junior high schools and high schools, and universities and language schools, so from all ages. And as a teacher, I feel a responsibility to keep my students safe. And so if there was a case where somebody came into the school or came into my classroom and tried to hurt my students, I would feel responsible for defending them. And I assume that as teachers that you have a similar responsibility. If you're used to the Zoom recording software, there's a good button called reactions, and you get a choice of reactions. I've just given everybody a thumbs up, and that's just a nice way of communicating that we've got a point. So the first thing is just, can you hear me? Can you hear the conversation? Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear my talking. Great. Yeah, we've got one from Jan. Yes. All righty. There as well. Fantastic. Okay. So keeping our students safe in school. I think the first thing to do is some what we would call kind of common sense things. When you go into a school, into a classroom, you recognize, where are the exits? Where are the entrances to your classroom? Are they lockable? Do you have a way of securing your classroom? And that's a number one thing, really. If somebody comes in through the door on the left, can you get your students out on the door to your right? And so avoid that situation. And then in the video, I was talking about self-defense, and the first thing really to do is your mindset, and that's to realize that violence is a part of our world, and people are attacked all the time. It doesn't happen very often, but the consequences of being attacked can be very serious. So it pays to minimize the amount of times you are attacked. So we talk about this as being risk awareness. Now, risk awareness is every time we live in our life, we're using risk awareness and risk avoidance. For example, if you are drivers, when you get into your car, you buckle up your seatbelt. And when you're driving, you keep your eyes open and your eyes on the road. And we do this to get information in, and then we can use that information to help keep us safe. And that driving analogy goes through to self-defense. So when you're walking on your way to school, keep your eyes open and you're looking around, and be aware of what we call unusual situations. As you walk to or drive to work every day, we have a normal. This is the kind of normal baseline. And then sometimes in Japan, it goes very abnormal. Yes, I've seen some very strange things in Japan, as I'm sure you have. But then there's another level, which is dangerous. And then there's this, so you need to pay attention to what could be considered dangerous. Now, how can we spot danger? Well, if we divide crime or violence into two broad categories, as I talked about on the video, one is social violence. And this is an argument. This is hierarchical. It's about territory. So it's for example, you go into a new environment. You go into a restaurant, for example, or a pub, and somebody looks at you. They want to know, who are you? Do you belong to this group? Are you outside of this group? So these group dynamics is all about social violence. Who is at the top, who's underneath, and what your status is. And then within those groups, there are rules. Some of the classic rules at the moment in Japan, social rules would be, wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. And then if you're seem to be breaking these rules, then violence can sometimes be used to enforce these rules. The violence goes on a continuum. It can just be somebody looking at you in a strange way. It can be somebody, pointing to your mask. It could be somebody talking to you, hey, can you put your mask on, please? In extreme cases, it could be somebody trying to physically assault you because you're not wearing a mask. So this social violence is because there's rules, or you're in-group and out-group. With social violence, then your good communication skills come into play. This is how you talk to people, how you react to people, your body language. And then you can de-escalate. So the escalator brings the violence up, and then the de-escalator brings the violence down. Simple things like apologies, passive body language, hey, I'm sorry, and clarifying, oh, we have to wear a mask in this place. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll put the mask on. You have no problems. So this is social violence. Most people's experience of it is, at school when they were students, maybe at high school or junior high school, or elementary school, that kind of ijime, that bullying. This is all good examples of social violence to maintain the hierarchy. So as I said, if it's quite easy to use your communication to de-escalate and to avoid social violence. A second type of violence is asocial violence. And asocial violence is when this is what we'd call criminal violence. And this has somebody we'll call a predator, so the predator or the criminal, and they want something from you. They want your nice watch, they want your phone, they want your body, they want your life, they want something from you. This type of predator is looking for an easy victim. And just like a lion in the savannah in Africa, they're looking around, they're looking for the young zebra, they're looking for the injured zebra, or the zebra by itself, because that's the one they're going to attack. They're not going to attack the big, strong group of zebras. They're looking for an easy victim. And human predators, human attackers are the same way. They will look around and spot someone. Maybe they've been drinking too much. Maybe they're just looking at their iPhone or their iPad and they have no attention. Or maybe they're by themselves in a more isolated area. So looking for that easy victim. And then when these crimes happen, there are 5 stages to this crime, as Mark McYoung worked out. And the first stage is they want to do crime. That's stage number 1. Stage number 2 is then they interview somebody. So their interviewing could be just looking at you and choosing you, or coming up to you and saying, hey, have you got the time? Do you know where Tokyo Dome is? Interviewing. And this interview is a way to find out, are you safe for the attacker to attack? Well, are you safe for the attacker? Sounds very strange, because the attacker wants no problems. They just want, your money, your phone, etc. The next thing you'll find they'll do is they get close to you. They'll get closer and closer and closer and closer to you. And then finally, at stage 4, they attack, whether it's a threat of violence or actual physical violence. And then stage 5 is very important. This is when they decide what to do next, which could be to go, or it could be to take you with them, or it could be to finish you, to kill you, for example, in a very extreme case. So with these 5 stages, they're quite easy to start spotting these stages, especially the distance, stage 3, the distance, when people start getting closer and closer to you for no good reason. The good news is that the violence happens on stage 4. So stage 1, 2, and 3, you have some kind of way to control being picked as a victim. And that's very important to study that. So if you look, a good example of this would be Jeff Thompson. And he talks about the 4 Ds, and the 4 Ds of an attacker. So this kind of criminal predator. The first D is dialogue. So they'll come up to you and they'll start talking to you and say, hey, how are you doing? Look, I'm attending the JALT conference here in Nagoya, but I don't know where the materials room is. They'll start talking to you and they're assessing, are you easy to attack? And then they're going to use deception. They're going to lie to you. They're going to say, like, I'm looking for the materials room. I'm meant to be meeting my friend, Andy there. He's I think he's at the Atamai books stand. They just start talking away. And as they're talking, they're getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And then finally, they'll come up to something like the distraction. They'll say something like, oh, is it over there? And then when, unfortunately, you look over there, when you're distracted, that's when they go to the destruction zone. And at that destruction time, it's very, very difficult to use self-defense. Why? Because a criminal predator has decided to use violence, has probably used violence before, has got close to you and set you up, and has just distracted you and hopefully got you thinking about something else or looking somewhere else, and then they attack. So again, be aware of people you don't know or semi-know coming up to you and talking to you, and in the back of your mind you're thinking, why are they talking to me? The good news is that our body, our brain, and our instincts, we have these instincts for survival. And you'll get bad feelings about places, bad feelings about people. I'm from England. And when I was a young man, I used to go to the pub. And sometimes I'd open the door and look into the pub and feel like, wow, this pub it's got a really bad vibe to it. It feels dangerous if I stay in it. I don't know why. It feels weird. So I go to another pub. And these survival instincts are keeping you safe. And basically, on a conscious level, we're only aware of, like 7 things or something. and only a little bit of our awareness. But our subconscious mind is scanning 360 degrees in all directions all the time. And when it sees something which is a bit dangerous, that normal, abnormal, dangerous, it will try and communicate with us. But the subconscious mind can't verbalize, it can't talk to us. But what it can do is give us a feeling in our stomach. It can, our hairs on the back of the neck, or even like, well, I don't like this person. I don't know why. They look nice. But, and as Gavin de Becker, famous self-defense writer said, Gavin de Becker said, always trust your instincts. Always trust your instincts. And so your instincts are there to protect you. It's pure communication. Unfortunately, as we're rationalizing humans, we want to know why. Why do I think this person is dangerous? Why have I got this feeling? For self-defense, the important thing is why is not important. Trust your instincts. And if you think this place is dangerous, go somewhere else. If you think this person is dangerous, don't be isolated with them. So that's some of the key points of self-defense. Feel free to jump in and with a question, or is this going in a direction that you're interested in? Please let me know. I'm going to have a sip of water for 5 seconds. You can tell I'm a newbie on Zoom. I should have stopped my video and it would have looked all professional, but it's jasmine tea.
No problem there.
Thank you. Gary, got a question. Good question from Gary here. He's got thank you for enjoying the video so far. Yes, please do watch my video. It's on, the link is on there as well. I'm also going to send through, or perhaps Andy can send through, there's 2 links for videos, additional videos. The JALT video is the kind of the theoretical side of the defense, and then part 3 and part 4 are these are more physical exercises you can do, and physical techniques that you can do. Okay. Is there a PDF summary of a presentation? No, there isn't at the moment, I'm afraid. Gary, in the video goes on for about 20 minutes, and it talks about the theory of self-defense and reiterates how you're selected as a victim or not. I think just to go into the parts 3 and 4, which is how you can train and what you can do. There's a couple of very, very simple things that you can do. Showing the video. Probably this is your best, well, your brain is obviously your best weapon, because that helps you think and that helps you avoid. And this avoiding violence is really, really important, because violence is the consequences of violence as severe, from PTSD, from being physically injured, from the psychological damage of injuring other people, from losing time because of money or injuries, the social problems. Your friends can say, well, I don't want to go with him anymore, he's a violent person. To your job here in Japan, we pretty much know if we ended up in a violent situation, regardless of who was at fault, a lot of employers will say, I'm sorry, please, you're a bad, you make our school bad, please don't come here anymore. While the police are investigating, they can keep you locked up for about 23 days. And I don't think my employer would be happy for me to have a 23-day holiday in the prison cells. I've been in Japan 20 odd years and I haven't had 23 days holiday ever, I think. So that's the first thing, is your brain to realize that with the social violence, like have experience in the school system, this can be de-escalated. You can apologize. You can make this easier. But there is a big difference between social violence and criminal violence. Now, criminal violence, where they want something from you, they want an easy person to attack. If you start apologizing, if you humble yourself, this just shows you're easier to attack. You actually give them the green light. Okay, this person's going to be no problems. I'll take what I want from this person. So for the criminal attacker, you can't de-escalate the situation. What you can do is another D, which is deter. You can show that this attacker to the attacker that you are not safe to attack. Okay, there's a famous expression of two tigers fight, one's killed and one's maimed, and that's the kind of mentality. So the attacker doesn't want to fight another tiger; it wants to fight a mouse, and hopefully an old mouse in a wheelchair. Perfect. That is the mentality, this asocial, this psychopathic mentality there. If you do have to use physical hands-on self-defense, some of the best things you can do is this, which is your heel palm. This is a very, very strong part of the body. I don't know if you can see it there. Boom. It's very good. It's non-verbal communication. Please stop. Please go away. I don't want any trouble. And it's very, very strong. This is what you use to open heavy doors with. Some people try to use a punch, but your hand is full of all these small bones, metacarpals and all these phalanges, all these small bones, and they break really easily. So if you punch somebody, very good chance that your hand will break. And even if it doesn't break, the witnesses are going to see this. Mr. Jones was punching that person. It's very, very different to Mr. Jones was pushing away that person. So investigate. You will get benefit by investigating how strong these heel palms are and how effective they are. So there's a good recommendation. A simple exercise which you'll see in the videos, part 4. If you have somebody coming punching you, this is the right punch coming to you, your palm heel into their shoulder will stop that punch. Punching with the left hand, your palm heel into the shoulder will stop that punch. It's a very, very simple drill to do, and it will serve you well. Be careful, because it's when people are punching, or when you're practicing, be careful, of course. When they're punching, their shoulder is kind of isolated from their body and is very, very vulnerable for damage. But if somebody's punching you, then this is a very good way to do it. And if they're coming around to grab you to tackle you or fall into you, then just use both hands. So that's one of the simplest self-defense movements that I teach. Extraordinarily effective, as you find out. The other thing, especially for younger children, is some people will try to grab you to pull you away, and come with me, or come with me, I won't hurt you, etc. And then many martial arts show you how to escape from this, but one of the simplest ways is to open up your hand. So you stretch out your hand, and then you go against the direction of the thumb. The thumb is the weakest area, because there's only one thumb and there's 4 fingers. This is very strong, and this is very weak. So self-defense takes some practice, but please do have a look at the parts 3 and 4 of the YouTube presentations, and they'll give you some ideas to work about. Be aware that self-defense is about, the whole mentality is not to get involved in the situation. I bring about the analogy of the experienced driver. If you're an experienced driver, decades of experience on the road, you see potential accidents could happen, and you react accordingly. you think, okay, that person, they're going to pull out. They're just going to pull out, you know. So I'm going to just slow down a bit, or give them some room, or I'm not going to overtake that lorry on the blind corner, because, you know, you never know. I'll just wait until it's a straight line and I can see behind it. Just these things we intuitively do as good and experienced drivers. You can do that as you gain more knowledge about how criminal predators attack people, then that's a good thing. And then on the social side, the great thing about the social side is good communication helps you in your job. It helps you in your personal life, in your business life. There are no downsides for having good interpersonal skills.
Just 3 minutes left.
Okay, good. Right. Yeah, so 3 minutes left. If you've got a final question, then please let me know.
One just popped in the chat.
Yeah.
Is there a part 2 video?
Yes. Good question. Now, actually, the video which is on the Eventzilla, the JALT page, is part 1 and part 2, and then the summary of part 4 kind of squashed together. So the part 2, you can get the part 2 by watching the part 1 and the part 2 by watching the JALT video on the JALT page.
Great, thank you. Yes.
And that's it.
You mentioned, well, if anyone has a question, please turn off your mics and ask, or the chat is fine. I think you mentioned, like, talking to students. Do you ever try to use self-defense as a way to have like a content-based language instruction? Or...
Absolutely, yeah. I teach a seminar course. I teach university students. I've also taught high school students 15-week learn English with self-defense. It's great if you're interested in, you know, total physical response, TPR, you know, right punch, right push.
Right.
It's got great TPR potential. It's teaching them it is a great content-based lesson, and in fact I'm teaching one, you know, at the moment. We use simple language to explain these situations. I teach them you know, active listening. I'll teach them active listening skills, communication skills, so they get better at communication, which will help them, you know, all the time.
Fantastic. Good. Yeah, it's more practical, and like you say, it's a total response. Great. Any other questions? Just 1 minute left. Okay. Yes, one more.
Okay. Well, the answer is yes and yes. What I mean by this is, by using the risk avoidance strategies and by using the self-awareness and the good communication, there are many potentially violent situations I've got into, but I've been able to physically get at them before I've gone hands-on with them. So the answer, you know, it's, you know, self-defense training is all about training people not to have fights, and so the more skilled you get, then the less conflict you have. Some of my students I've taught, and they've reported back to me that, you know, one of them was at a festival ago, and some guy kind of grabbed her by the arm and was like trying to pull her away, and she broke out of the grab and saying, you know, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? And he tried again, and then she's like, what are you doing? And then he kind of went off to find an easier victim. So yes, another student was in kind of a roppongi, you know, a nightclub area of Japan, and he heard somebody running up behind him. He turned around and there was a big punch coming towards him, so he, you know, managed to block the punch and knock the guy out. So yes, personally, do I use it? I use it every day, every second of every day. I'm using the skills I've used in self-defense.
Okay, great. We're out of time, so yes, thank you very much. Please, if you can, unmute your microphones. Let's give a round of applause to Dominic. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to share. Okay, well, good luck with the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.
Excellent.
Okay,
excellent.
Great. Yeah, very different kind of presentation. Yes. So yeah, very interesting. If you want to continue, you could go to the Hangouts if you guys want to talk more. You go to the Hangouts room. This is room 22. And please visit the educational materials exhibit, supporting our sponsors and publishers. Yeah, that helps JALT a lot. And visit the SIG rooms. Yes, again, thank you very much. And it's time to close the room.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great conference. Okay, cheers.
Thank you.